graduated, got a degree, went and got an advanced degree. But how in the world could I have planned to be on television? People said to me, did you study television in college? And I'm really flattered by that, because when, you know, the truth is, when I was in college, boys and girls, they had not even perfected it enough. They didn't even have television. I know that's hard for you all to believe, that I came up in an age where there was no television. They were just trying to get it together. So can you imagine, I became the first black person in the South, and really in the nation, to have my own television program. Yeah, first time. I couldn't have planned that because we didn't have television in college. But an opportunity came my way, and I took advantage of it. And while I didn't even know anything about television, except I'd been a guest supporting some charity, but there's a red light, as you know, on television, and that's really all I knew. But once they said, we want you to break the color barrier, it was too good of an opportunity to pass. Wow. But I knew one thing, that I had to be good at it. First, to satisfy my zeal for wanting to be good, but also because I was the first black, because we had a racist society. If I failed, they're going to say, see there, black folk can't produce. I went into the television studio and learned everything that I needed to know to do my television program. I also learned that all of us, as black Americans, come in different hues. So some are darker than others, and years ago, when we used to be on television as black people, all you saw, because they didn't change the lighting registry, we saw eyes and teeth, and nothing more. Because they were set for white people. And I asked my general manager, did I have the authority to fire camera people who didn't do what I said? Well, they said yes, but nobody believed it, because I was new in the industry. They thought I didn't have any power. So one night I had a guest who was very dark, and I looked at the monitor, and there I saw the eyes and the teeth, and I said, sir, I asked him very calmly, would you change the registry there so we could get a clearer vision of this man's countenance? And he said, it's all the same. It doesn't matter. And then I stopped everything I said. You must go. I refuse to allow you to work on this show any longer. And he didn't believe me, but the director knew I meant it, and I fired him on the spot. I didn't have any more trouble. I went into that television, total ignorance. Came from it all kinds of recognitions for success, what they call it, you know, she's a success. Well, the reason I was dubbed as a success is because I went in there and prepared myself after I knew I didn't know what I was doing. All I had was an opportunity. But guess what happened? Because I had the proficiency to do my job, I then became responsible for hiring the first black anchor on television in Atlanta, the first news director, the first street reporter. That's what happened. Not that I was so wonderful being on television, but the opportunity I gave others to open the door. And so now I look around and I see black women and men doing television all over this United States. And let me just tell you this, the station that Oprah Winfrey came from was a station I went to and coached the general manager. People used to say, how do you become successful? I just said, open the door and let them in. You know, black folk can do what anybody else can do. All we need is the opportunity. So I say to you, it doesn't matter, you're not going to have the same problems that we had as African Americans, although racism is still here. But what you have to have is the stuff inside of you that will make you excel at everything you do. Dr. King says if you clean these streets, make them so clean that people will ask. And I have to tell you a story about this. When I moved to Atlanta, I moved here from Los Angeles, California. And in California, they clean the streets every Tuesday, one day a week, both sides. So the streets are always clean. When I came here, and you always have to ask, where do I park my car? Because you don't want your car moved. Because in California, they will move your car to clean the streets. So I ask here, what day do they clean the streets here on Auburn Avenue? Clean the streets? And I don't want to park on the wrong side. They thought I was speaking Greek. They didn't even clean the streets. I said, oh, well, we've got to change that. I called downtown to ask them, what day did they clean the streets on Auburn Avenue? And they said, well, we don't have a regular date. Well, what day are you likely to do it? Can you just pick one that you might be out here? And they said, oh, well, what was the last time you were here? Maybe we could start there. What was the last day you came? And they said it had been a little while because the equipment was broken. Oh, really? How long has it been broken? And when do you plan to repair it? Well, as it turned out, long story short, is they didn't even clean the streets on Auburn Avenue. I got the streets cleaned on a regular basis on Auburn Avenue. Let me see. There's a continuity here that I want you all to grasp. It's easy to sit back and complain. It's easy to talk about what somebody is or is not doing. And then I want you always, from this point forward, ask yourself the question, what am I doing? Because you are so responsible for what happens to you. Your grades in school, you know what? I could sit in your classroom all day long, and I could never impact your grade. Your mother, your boyfriend, girlfriend, Aunt Susie, mom and them. The only person who could get your grades is you. So you can make A's by your own choice, or you can flunk out by your own choice. And that's the beauty of your life, is you have the power and the control to make it work. Either way you want it to work. Now my blessings are so bountiful till I really cannot describe for you today all the wonderful things that happened in my life. But how could I have ever planned to meet a Martin Luther King? Well, you can meet a great man, but you sure can't plan to be his confidant. And you sure can't plan to be a part of his intricate life, him and his wife and the family. Can't plan that. But it happened to me. And so as a result, I have to tell you a quick story. I was so close to the Kings that I ended up, just to jump forward, that when he died, I, with the family's permission, coordinated his funeral. And guess what? Years later, his wife died. I coordinated her funeral. Their daughter died. I had to coordinate her funeral. From just back years ago, meeting them and becoming close to them. But I have to tell this funny story that Mr. Stewart referred to. Dr. King had been pretty despondent, meaning that he had taken a position on the war in Vietnam, and you all remember, or maybe some youngsters don't, but we had a war. Dr. King just felt that war was evil and that there were no victors in war. And he made a statement on his philosophy in New York about the Vietnam War, and it became a very unpopular position. And money dried up, his friends left him, and he was pretty depressed. And he said to me one time, you know, I just can't understand what has happened. People know my philosophy, that I can't support war.